All right, good morning. Well, it's morning for me anyway because all of my work and Zoom calls happen a little bit later this afternoon. So I've got the morning free to show you guys how I'm making that cinnamon pecan cake out of the cast iron skillet that I made for dessert in a previous video. That cake is so good and it's so moist and so soft and has so much cinnamon pecan flavor. I love it so much for dessert, and you can put ice cream over it. But what I also love it for is coffee cake. It makes a really good morning coffee cake, especially like the next day after it's all cooled off. You know, if you got it in an airtight container or whatever, they cut really nicely, they hold together. You can just grab it with your hand, take a bite with your coffee. It's delicious. So I am looking forward to this for my second cup of coffee this morning when I have to visit my little Zoom meeting with the camera off, and maybe I can have a little snack while I'm there. Nobody will ever know, right? So let's get started with the ingredients. This is super quick, super simple. Anyone can do this. You can mess it up a little bit. It's fine if you go over or under a couple little ingredients. I am not the greatest baker in the world, and sometimes the recipes I use for baking are pretty versatile for that reason. Like you can give and take a little bit, and it's gonna be okay. All right, for the ingredients, we are going to need gluten-free all-purpose flour, about 1 1/8 cup or about 1 1/4 cup. You just need a little bit more than a cup. We're gonna need 1 egg, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 cup of white sugar and a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, about a 1/4 cup of pecans. We're gonna need cinnamon, baking powder, about a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, which is all I've got left, and a 1/2 cup of whole milk. Don't forget the cast iron skillet. We are gonna need an additional 1/4 cup of sugar and a little more cinnamon to go with these pecans for the topping. So make sure you've got a little extra there. You guys, I am so in love with this cinnamon pecan cake. It is so moist and delicious and so cinnamony and perfect with a cup of coffee in the morning. I am not exaggerating. Like, my reaction is totally 100% genuine. Like, close your eyes and just enjoy the moment. Okay, first I'm just gonna butter and flour my cast iron. It may not need it, but I kind of always think it does when I'm baking. I really don't want it to stick to the bottom. So I just kind of rub a little butter along the sides. All right, then I'm just gonna take this gluten-free flour. You can make this with regular flour if you don't have an issue with gluten, but I personally, it bothers me sometimes. I'm not a celiac cook by any means. But anyway, I do try to use gluten-free items when I can, because I tend to notice a sensitivity for sure if I eat too much of it, too much pasta and things like that. So I try to go gluten-free when I can. And honestly, in this cake, you would not even notice. Even Jarrett said that when he had it for the first time. So trust me on this one, it's good. Gluten-free all-purpose flour works just fine. Okay, so in a mixing bowl, you're just gonna put the flour in first, okay, let's back up. I want to sift mine. That's just like, I just like to sift flour. I just feel like it's fluffier. So I'm gonna sift it. You don't have to if you don't really want to. I don't know if it really matters that much, but I'm doing mine this way. That's a 1/2 cup. And here's 1 cup. This is the funnest part. If you don't want to do it or don't have a sifter, don't. It's okay. It's still gonna turn out good. And then, so that was 1 cup. Last time I did about 1/8 extra. So this is a 1/2 cup measuring cup I'm using, so that's about a 1/4, isn't it? Let's go with that. So this is about 1 1/4 cups of this gluten-free all-purpose flour. Salt, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 tablespoon of cinnamon. I'm like, I'll put in a whole tablespoon if you let me, but I'm gonna go with 1/2 because I used 1/2 last time and it tasted great. So 1/2 tablespoon. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. It just looks like it needs more. That's because I love cinnamon so much. There's gonna be some cinnamon in the topping too. 1/2 cup of white sugar, 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Whoop! just flew in one lump. And the baking powder, how much baking powder do I need? I think it's half teaspoon of baking powder. Okay, so here's my quarter. So we're gonna do quarter, half. All right, we're just gonna kind of stir this up a little bit. All right, now in our large measuring cup, we're going to mix the milk and the egg. Okay, and then lastly, the quarter cup of vegetable oil. Now I know, someone's gonna say, vegetable oil is not very healthy, you could use a different kind. I could, but that's what this one calls for. And honestly, I like the texture of how vegetable oil makes the cake. I could use coconut oil maybe, but not this time, not today. Just gonna whisk that up a little bit. Very simply, we're just gonna pour the wet ingredients into the dry and mix it up. Easy peasy. My brain is talking to my stomach and it's like, yeah, you're hungry. Let me go set my oven to 350. You wanna come with me? Why not, right? Set my upper oven. I love my upper oven. It's so easy. It's already at 350, start. This little thing, I use it all the time. It's one of my favorite stoves I've ever had. I bought this one twice, matter of fact, because we remodeled 2 kitchens. Definitely one of my favorite ones. This cast iron pan is a 10-inch pan, and it doesn't look like this is going to fill that, but you can double this if you want it to rise higher and be a little thicker, but this just makes one little layer of like thinner coffee cake. Sometimes I don't need all that. You know, I don't need a big giant piece of cake. I just want something thin that goes with my cup of coffee or just a little bit of dessert. I feel like for just 2 people, again, usually it's just me and Jarrett. Empty nesters talking to you, if you want, you know, something simple that is good for dessert, but then you can have it maybe for the next morning for breakfast, like this is perfect for it. And if you want to feed more, then double the recipe and it'll be fuller in the pan and rise higher, and then therefore a larger chunk of cake. But I just love the texture and the moisture that's in this when it's just this much. And basically what I do is get it in here and just spread it around a little bit, because it's not gonna look like that's a lot. I want every last bit I can get to. And then I just kind of take it to the edges. And you're like, that's not gonna be enough. Trust me, it'll rise just enough. This is great. This is all I need. And it cooks fast. All right, just wanna get it as even as possible. Get every last bit that you can. No, I want like every bit. And then do what your mom used to do and make it even. We're gonna do the topping, which is 1/4 cup of sugar. So I've just got my 1/2 cup here. I'm just gonna eyeball it, it's fine. This is just for the topping. 1/4 cup of sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. So this is 1/4 and 1/2, plus a little grow on, and then here comes the pecans, the best part. So if you didn't chop your pecans, you're gonna need to chop them small like this. Or if you have one of these handy dandy nut grinders, that's what it's good for. I love this thing so much. Let's just do it for fun. All you need is a 1/2 cup, but look, I'm sure you can get this on Amazon or anywhere in the world. I got mine at the Amish store. Sometimes you don't feel like chopping stuff with a knife. You want a different toy. This one's fun. Usually I just fill it up to the top and then dump it in my little nut container there. Okay, 1/2 cup. We need a lot of pecans on the top. Make it crunchy and delicious. It just makes this cinnamon sugar pecan topping. And we're simply going to sprinkle this on. Actually, I'm gonna use my hands so I can get it even. We're just gonna sprinkle this across the top. Oh my gosh, it already smells so good. And see how it's a little sandy in there? It's gonna look like that, and that's okay. We're gonna get a little more sugar down into that cake. then we're just gonna take a knife and just kind of swirl it into the cake a little tiny bit. It's just kind of gonna allow it to get down in there a little bit. Not too much, but enough. All right, 350 for 15 minutes. During this little 15-minute intermission, I thought I would chop some raw Brazil nuts in my little nut chopper. These are a little chunkier and they're harder to grind up, but they're really good in like some yogurt. So I felt like instead of just having sugar this morning, I should also maybe have a little protein, and I just like a little quick Trader Joe's cashew milk based yogurt. So it's like dairy free, sprinkled with Brazil nuts. So, cause sometimes like granola can be full of sugar too, you know, unless you make it at home, make it yourself, which I love doing also. But sometimes Brazil nuts just have this like little bit of a richness, and they go a long way on a yogurt. Happy, graceful, slow down breakfast time to me. Yes and no. Okay, so I think it's almost ready. Like, you don't want it jiggly in the middle, so it could use another 3 to 5 minutes. It's not as jiggly as it could be, so I'm thinking like three additional minutes. Just as long as it's like set and firm. It's been 3 more minutes. Oh yeah, it's nice and firm. Nothing's jiggling, except for my underarm. Okay, we're gonna let that cool for 15-20 minutes before we can cut in and take a bite. It is warm and fresh out of the oven. I am so ready to give this a try. It's still gonna be a little bit soft coming out of the pan hot, but that's okay. Let's see if I can get up under there without it falling apart. It won't fall apart when it's cooled off more. I'll just take care of these little crumbles, not a problem. It's so good. It's almost like, remember when you were a kid and you had those little coffee cakes, they were square and they had that cinnamon crumble topping on the top? It's like that, but 100 times better. Weren't those good as a kid? You ever tried one as an adult? They're not the same. Okay, this piece is not the prettiest. It is so moist and delicious. Once you get it cooled off a little better, they hold together much better, I promise. So it's great for an afternoon snack. Put some ice cream on that. Let those little rivers run through it. Have you ever had like the best, softest, most delicious like churro? I'm not talking about anything from the fridge, guys. I'm talking about the real deal, where it's like so delicious and it tastes like dough and cake, but with a little bit of a crunch, just a little bit, and with cinnamon. Oh my gosh, it's like that. This could almost be called cinnamon churro cake because that's what it tastes like. Like, it's got that cinnamon to it. But the pecan though, it's so good. Like, I could just sit here and eat in front of you all day, but I've got a meeting that starts in 45 minutes now. I'm gonna pour me a second cup of Joe. And excuse me while I just have a moment with my coffee cake. The sugar makes me feel a little bit guilty, but the gluten-free part absolutely doesn't. One piece is good for now. I might allow myself to have one tonight, but I might go ahead and let this cool completely, put it in a container, and then just one slice a day. You know, everything in moderation, right? Wrapping up here, I think I'm just gonna hide this and keep it all to myself. Seriously, the best cake I've made in a while. I love cooking out of a cast iron skillet, and I promise I'll bring you my chocolate cake recipe soon. If you followed us from our other channel, our next adventure, I know some of you RVers and campers out there are going to love this recipe because number one, I know how much you love to use cast iron, most likely. And number two, this is an easy travel dessert or travel coffee cake because you can already mix the dry ingredients, put them in a container. You can already mix the 3 wet ingredients, put them in a container, the milk, egg, and oil, right? And then once you get to your site, you can whip it all up, throw it in the oven, and it's ready. Like, so easy, so good. Probably travels well. It definitely will travel well if you make it ahead of time and then take it in a container for down the road. Snack on it while you're, 5 hours into your long trip. It's going to be way better for you. Even the sugar and the vegetable oil, it's still going to be way better for you than anything packaged that you're going to get at Buc-ee's or Love's or any gas station out there. Just saying. Homemade's the way to go. Take some time to give yourself some grace this morning. I hope you did. And I hope this moment was it. And if it is, thank you. Thank you for joining me. Print or pin this recipe from my website. And I hope you guys seriously enjoy it. So cheers. Thank you. Welcome to the channel if you're new. I'll see you on the next one.